Hey everyone, and welcome to the first ever Legion Academy unboxing video. We're live here with our second video, and we are going to be talking about Rex and Dooku.
You bet. I have both Rex and Dooku. Here, let me just swap cams here for a second. I'm going to shrink you down there a bit, Joe. There we
All
go.
right,
So,
I got mine
ready?
here too.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Want to trade?
Yeah, sure, here. Take that.
All right. Yeah. So for the cast tonight, what we're gonna do, it's not gonna be too long. Hopefully, you guys can hear us. Just give us a couple thumbs up or OKs if you guys got us on cam and everything's looking good. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbox the contents. We're gonna throw those under close cam. Sploosh is in the house. What we're gonna do is slide the cards underneath so you guys can get a nice close-up of those. And then I think what we'll do is Joe will probably do a lot of the talking about the cards because he's got a lot of ideas already for at least Rex usage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just do a little bit of hobbying under the cam and try to assemble these characters here. So I have no preference, but why don't we do this? Why don't we, as we have people sort of added into the chat here, there's 12 of you. We got some thumbs up, so people are hearing us. Why don't you guys give us a quick rundown? Rex, Dooku, you guys call it. Most votes wins. We'll go with that one first. I think Bob's going to give us a Rex here momentarily, so I'm fairly certain about that.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
How did you go out to your local game store and pick this up tonight, or did you get it in the mail, or?
No, I get all my models via the local store, so the store owner is gracious enough to make sure that he gets me in everything that I needed. So I swung by there this afternoon because, of course, we wanted to do this tonight. Yeah, he had them waiting there for me, and I picked up 7 of those mini deck boxes that we were talking about as well. So for all the upgrades that were going on there. So yeah, I ordered 5 last week and I got another 7. So I have 12. So I have 1 mini deck box for every type of upgrade at this point. So wow. I'm kind of like, OCD about keeping stuff, at least organized, not necessarily in order, but just has a compartment to go into. So.
I spent like $290 at my game store tonight. Two of the purchases were Rex and Dooku, but the rest was like Crisis Protocol and some other stuff. So
you are a sick man. Yeah. Nice. No, I did not spend $240. I did spend a lot of money yesterday though, so that was I kind of told you about that little story. So yeah, went in just to pick up just a spare TV because I wanted to get another box put in my house, and I didn't walk out, with a very thick wallet after I was done in there. So bad. Electronic stores and me do not mix well in terms of not wanting to spend money. So yeah. Okay, what do we got in here? Let's see here. We got 1 for Gandalf, 1 for Spock. So we'll discount those, and then we got a Rex, okay. Rex. Looks like Rex
all right.
First.
Rex.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna switch cams here.
All right, let's get right into it. Beautiful art on the front. Throw that up. Let's see this.
Bring you guys here, so everyone should see Rex under close cam. The only thing I did was just cut the sides. Just so that I didn't have to, do that on cam. I'm just going to scroll so I can keep track of the comments here. And I see that Sploosh said he also bought all the Crisis Protocol stuff today. So
nice.
That might be a tomorrow thing for me. I am there tomorrow for an event. So all right, let's just dump out the contents of the box. There's the box there. We'll set that aside. So we got base, of course. We have assembly instructions. You guys can see that's a little bit glary. Let me zoom in a little bit. Try to take that glare off. All right, so 3 head options. I don't know what I'm going to go with. Well, we'll see what looks best here. So I'm also open to votes. So whatever most votes, I'm cool with that. I can probably just plug that in anyways. I probably don't need to glue that. So. And then it looks like the rest of the assembly instructions are pretty straight forward. So we'll get rid of that.
Yeah,
I'm
it
going to
looks
do...
like we got the standard soft plastic. We're not dealing with sprues yet for this faction, although they have said that I believe sprues start for clones on phase 2 clones. So the days of the soft plastic are definitely numbered. This is kind of the last little hurrah for it. I do love that they've included 3 head options, though, and it makes me want to go buy 3 sculpts because I'm just crazy like that. But I've just got the one right now, so all right, let's
Okay.
take a look at the upgrade cards first of all that come with. So, smoke grenades. That's I guess the newest one here. The rest of the stuff you're seeing is pretty standard stuff. We've had a steam leader basically since Veers and Leia. Emergency stims we've had forever. Recon intel we've had forever. Endurance is nice. Definitely going to be potentially useful on this faction in particular because of their sort of limited ability to clear suppression. And then also we have the controversial smoke grenade, which may or may not be not that great. But we'll talk more about that when the time comes. So now you see Sean's just putting the model out there for you guys all to see.
Yeah, we'll get... Yeah, that's
great.
I think that's fairly well assembled. So
yeah, there you go.
we'll slide these guys aside because truthfully, probably most people want to see the command card. So we'll work through these. Do you want to start with the command card, or do you want to start with the Rex's card?
Why don't you show Rex's like unit card first? So
there you go.
All right, can you zoom in a little bit?
I think we are max zoom there, unless I change the actual camera angle. But what we'll do is we'll bring it up.
That looks fine.
We'll bring it up a bit closer there for you.
There
we go.
All right, so I'm also opening mine up as well, so I could kind of follow along here. And okay, so Clone Captain Rex, he is a commander. He is 90 points base. Really inexpensive, and you know the same thing as Veers here. So you got the nice, cheaper option for the faction finally in hand. We've had Obi-Wan so far out of the core set, and Obi-Wan is like a much more expensive force using option. So now we have kind of the cheaper option, which is going to help potentially get this faction up to like 9 activations instead of 8. Okay, so you'll notice that he has the Gunslinger Keyword, which is great. It essentially lets him attack 2 different targets with his ranged weapon. We saw the same keyword on Han. He's got Scout 1, so by default, he gets a Speed 1 move out of the deployment zone. And I'll talk about why I think Recon Intel is good here in a second when we talk about Scouting Party. Scouting Party is a new keyword for the game that comes for the first time on Rex, Scouting Party 2, which I think is really good. So it's after you use Scout, choose up to 2 friendly trooper units at range 1 to 2. Each unit performs a move equal to your Scout value. So normally the Scout value on Rex, as you see on his card, is Scout 1. If you put Recon Intel on him, he has Scout 2. If you have Recon Intel on him in advanced positions, he has Scout 3. And that means that 2 other units that are deployed will also have that. He surges to crit. He has Sharpshooter 1, so he's getting through cover fairly well. He also has Tactical 1. Tactical 1 is awesome because it means that when he moves, he gets a free aim. So that also applies to scouting. So right off the bat, as you drop him down and do Scouting Party, he starts the game with an aim. And remember, that aim can be shared amongst your clone troopers, so that is awesome. In melee, he's pretty offensive for like a single unit clone trooper. Like he throws 2 red dice in melee. That's not bad. Surging to crit. He throws 3 red dice at range 1 to 2 for his range weapon. And remember, you can do that to 2 eligible targets with Gunslinger. He has 5 health. He has courage 2, so 1 less courage than Obi-Wan. Pretty standard courage 2, red defensive save, surge to crit, moves at speed 2. He comes with 2 gears, a grenade, a training, and a command upgrade. So pretty standard stuff here. We'll jump into his command cards next because I think this is where he gets really interesting, just like pretty much with any other commander.
All right, do you want to go 1 through 3 or 3 down to 1?
You know what? Let's do 3 down to 1.
Roger that.
All right, so the 3-pip. We are not programmed. So the reason I like this right off the bat is it goes to 4 clone troopers. So it's a 3-pip that issues orders to 4 units, which you don't see that often. Usually you see 3 units on a 3-pip. So, Rex can put an order on himself and still 3 other clone trooper core units, which is awesome. So Rex gets Inspire 2 and 2 Surge tokens. Inspire 2 is huge for this faction. Again, you don't have a ton of access to suppression clearing mechanics. This is definitely one of them. Also, 2 Surge tokens is awesome. And when you combine that with aggressive tactics and the fact that you are automatically going to be issuing 4 orders here, you're going to have 6 Surge tokens. And don't forget that they can be shared. So this turn can make you really defensive or really offensive, depending on what you want to do. When Clone Captain Rex activates, he recovers. Again, awesome. He's not going to lose actions this turn. If he was in danger of panicking, he's not going to panic. So all in all, this is a great command card. What are your thoughts on it, Sean?
Well, I was paying very little attention to what you were doing because I was busy working here, but I think that one of the cool things about it is, and I think I heard you mention, is the fact that we don't often see a 4-unit, activation card. So that's kind of good. You're going for a 3-pip, but really you're kind of going for a 3-pip with quite good control here. I think Inspire is definitely something that the clones are in need of. Especially if you're going with phase 1s as opposed to phase 2s. So I think that the Inspire is probably the best part of this card, but the fact that you can get it out to your units really means that you have quite a bit of control. I think Rex is going to be a super core troop buff versus Obi, and I think that having Rex and Obi together maybe frees up Obi to be a little bit more maybe offensive, maybe leading the way, where Rex can kind of bring the bulk of the forces kind of behind.
Yeah, and you know what? This card is interesting because there's a lot more layers to it than you might see initially. One of the things that I like about it is if you did want to do a big fire support play on a turn, this is a card that allows you to do so. You have 4 face-up order tokens, most likely on 3 core units in Rex or 4 core units. You potentially have access to 4 sources of fire support. Depending on how you build your list and kind of the stuff that's going to come out in the future and whatever it ends up being, you might not even want to fire support with 4 units in one turn. But this gives you that option. Whereas there's not a lot of other command cards outside of essentially using HQ uplinks and shenanigans like that are going to allow you to have that many face-up orders on your fire support units. So I really like this. I think it's going to be really good. I could see it as a turn 1 play. I can see it as a turn 4 play. It depends what you want to do with it, but you're getting a lot of different things and one card. So do you need to clear suppression on Rex? Play it. Do you need to clear some suppression on something else? Play it. Do you need to fire support? Play it. It's good. Why don't we look at his 2-pip?
Sure, Joe. I just scrolling through the chat here. I'm just going to put a question. Can you see that on the screen there? I'm not sure if you had answered that or not, but that's a question there about scouting.
Yeah, the answer to that is no. I'm pretty sure that's in the RRG that if you've already scouted out, you cannot scout again with Scouting Party.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Doug. I didn't see that question. I'm supposed to be manning the chat here as I'm assembling Fig. So, all right.
That being said, we're not really going to deep dive really too much in this. This is more just to be like a fun unboxing. We're going to do a much deeper dive on Monday on our podcast, and we'll have the RRG up. We'll like cross-reference all that stuff. I'm just kind of pulling that off the top of my head. I might actually be wrong on that. So I do just want to add that caveat. Okay, so let's look at his 2-pip next. Take that, Clankers. So this one goes to 2 troopers. When a friendly trooper unit with a face-up order token and an aim token performs a ranged attack, During the form attack pool step, it may increase its maximum range of each of its ranged weapons by 1 up to a maximum of 4. Okay, so this is crazy interesting because there's a lot of different things that you can do here. So, for example, it depends how you want to build your army. There's a lot of different things. You're going to go with 2 troopers. You're probably going to give this to your core troopers, and I'm thinking likely you're going to want to play this earlier in the game rather than later. But, for example, this is going to potentially add, and since it only goes to troopers, not specifically clone troopers, this is potentially going to make Obi-Wan allowed to do a range 3 saber throw, which you can then fire support into. This is potentially going to allow Z6s to shoot at range 4. This is allowing grenades to shoot at range 2. You can take a concussion grenade and deny someone cover at range 2 with your Z6. You could take an impact grenade and throw it at range 2. There's a lot of different plays. This is going to, if you're taking the DC-15, which is normally a range 4 gun, this is going to allow the rest of your clones to add their dice into that pool at range 4. Rex can gunslinger at range 3 and then receive fire support. Lots and lots of different interesting plays here. So I love this command card. Again, I love Rex in general for this faction. I think he's like such a good, interesting tool for this faction to get. But I think that there's so many cool things you can do with this command card that are yet to be explored. And this is also adding some interesting future-proof stuff. Like, we don't know what's coming in terms of other units. And this card is just going to, I think, stay relevant and stay good forever. Being able to push your weapons out an extra range 1 is awesome.
Yeah. Again, Doug just in the chat brought up the range 3 shotgun. So when we get that upgrade pack out, that weapon that's in there that we know is very effective. But one of the limitations we talked about on the last podcast was, that range 2. Well,
right.
Rex has got the ability to now make that weapon even better. Maybe you want to go get yourself a couple upgrade packs if you're going to enlist Rex in your army.
Range 3 piercing weapon with a huge dice pool, and also potentially the ability to stand by at range 3. Like, that combo is awesome. This faction is really cool. All right, the 1-pip.
The 1-pip.
The 1-pip's always like the best card for every commander. Usually, it's pretty much how it goes. So let's see what this one does. Call me Captain. It only goes to Rex. All right, Clone Captain Rex gains fire support. Great. This is where it gets awesome. When he gains fire support, he does not flip the order token face down. While a friendly unit performs a melee attack, Clone Captain Rex can fire support to add ranged weapon to that attack pool. All right, so basically an infinite fire support for a turn. Now, This is interesting because it sounds, I think, a lot better on paper than it could potentially play out to be. You might see this and be like, oh my god, this is too overpowered. The thing that you got to keep in mind, though, is that Rex shoots at range 2. Rex plays in that short range band. So in order to use this, you're also like putting yourself in the other army's face.
Right.
So that's kind of the trade-off there.
However,
and
I was just going to say, is the quick counterplay to this, if this card comes out, if you tie Rex up, is once he enters melee, he's likely no longer able to fire support.
That's actually another interesting counterplay because Clone Captain Rex can use fire support to add the ranged weapon to the attack pool if a friendly unit's performing a melee attack, but it doesn't add the caveat that when he's in melee, he can shoot out of the melee. He doesn't gain versatile or anything on his weapon. So, right. That is a play. Like, charge him into melee and lock him down, and then he can't do this big fire support trick. However, if you charge your clones into melee and lock stuff down, while they're doing their melee attack, Rex could shoot into that melee and add a piercing weapon, essentially. So, actually, no, I'm sorry. Rex doesn't pierce, but he does have, 3 reds that he gets to add in. So, that's pretty good.
Uh, Ben's got a note on here to say, important to note, Rex's surge to crit won't be added to the pool. That's important to know because it's a fire support.
Yep. Right. So he's not the attacker. He's the supporter. So it's not his surge. It's your other units. So that's a good point. I think that there's some interesting play here with Obi-Wan. Like if he's next to Obi-Wan kind of in that range 2 band and then Obi-Wan could Guardian for him or something, maybe it can add a little bit of, survivability to him. It's an interesting play for sure. We'll have to see how much this gets used, how well people are going to set up for it. I don't think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, as each of my units activate, Rex is just going to stand there and add dice. I think it's going to be one of those things where maybe you set up and you do it once or twice, or it just essentially lets him almost double activate in a turn. He gets his fire support shot, then he gets his actual activation, something like that. The other thing to note is that there's no Gunslinger and fire support kind of have weird interactions with each other. So I know that there was a question about that brought up on the Facebook and that there's some confusion around that. So if you're fire supporting into Rex, like Rex is activated and Rex is doing the attack, if you're fire supporting into his attack, you don't get to do it twice just because he has Gunslinger. You're resolving an entire attack pool at one target, and that's a face-up order, and it goes away. His next attack that happens from Gunslinger is either just going to be the 3 reds at the second target, or you're going to have to fire support a second unit into him to do that. So that's, you could potentially burn a lot of activations in that turn if you wanted to do something like that. So I think that that's a little risky and maybe not always recommended.
I was just thinking about this in terms of in terms of play. If you have a unit that's engaged in a melee, for example, and you kind of need that unit to be freed to, let's say, get some movement, of course, your immediate option is that you just withdraw, and of course, you're going to slow your speed down, but you get out of that combat. The only downside with that is if that unit that you're engaged with hasn't engaged, they can just re-engage you. So using Rex's fire support into a melee may just be those added dice that you need to kind of kill that unit without taking an aim. So if you were able to kill that on your first swing, your first action, you may then actually be able to free yourself up for a full speed move getting out of that. So Rex may be just that little bit of added support that you need in melee without actually physically moving the model over to support the melee. So
there's also an interesting standby token sharing mechanic that you can do with melee. So for example, if you move a unit into melee with something, either this turn via 1 action and you still have a second action, or on the previous turn, and you take a standby action with that unit, chances are that standby cannot get knocked off by the unit it's engaged with in melee. Right. The only way it would be able to is if that unit had suppressive on their melee weapon, like Jin, for example. So if you walk some clone troopers into some stormtroopers and you took a standby, you can now share that standby with something that's range 1 away and trigger it off of non-melee attacks that are happening from other units. Does that make sense? Are you following me on that, guys, or Sean, or?
I think in the interest of, we're not going to deep dive into this unit card, we'll revisit that Fair. In the podcast, because what I think we can do is we can show that under close cam and actually walk people through that entirely. So
totally, I'm getting way off track here. We'll do an unboxing.
We'll put a plug in that one. Speaking of unboxing, let's look at the model.
All right, you got the model built?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. It didn't tap all my skills, so
awesome. Yeah, I love the pose.
The pose is, of course, the pose is definitely doing it for me for sure. Head swap options on this, it'll be ridiculously easy. I mean, you don't even need to do anything related to magnets or anything like that. It's not going to fall out, as you can see.
Awesome.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's another thing too. Is as long as you have a way to securely like transport your models, you probably don't even need to glue in those heads.
no.
You can just
Uh,
friction.
Yeah, like I just push fit the arms in. I think, to be honest, if you're painting this, just do yourself a favor and just leave those free and clear so you can kind of get in and do the body. And then once you finish up the body, if you want to, just go ahead and put those in. But I wanted to show real quick tonight. So I like to use these really handy tweezers. I'm not sure if people have seen them before, but they're pretty fantastic. You can just simply clip your pieces on, and it holds it for you, and
Yeah,
you can just go ahead and paint. It's like an extra set of hands, but I don't have to, like, blue tack it to anything. I don't have to do anything with it, and it's plenty sturdy. It's also super fantastic if you have a couple sets, because you can sort of rotate and paint your arm, set that aside, and so I love using these. So I just wanted to show them on cam tonight, because if you guys haven't seen them before, this is what I use to put my droids together as well. So
nice. Yeah, cool. I like that.
so
All right. I think the only
Dooku.
other things really in the Rex box are like his cardboard tokens, which the only thing that's new is the smoke token. It
Oh yeah,
seems
we
to
could
be
we can
yeah, it
show
seems
that.
to be the same size as like the other green tokens. Um,
Let's
nothing
pop.
super special, you know.
Let's pop that guy out. He's there, so you guys can see that.
Standard round token. Yep. So that's cool. Smoke token, smoke grenade. If you're playing on a table that doesn't have a ton of terrain, that's a useful upgrade. Other than that, not sure about it yet. Still, verdict's still out on that upgrade, but it's
All right.
cool.
Let's
All right, let's
switch over. Dooku.
Yeah,
Got it.
do
I'm
it
just
up.
gonna sort of set all this stuff over here so I try not to lose many pieces. And let's slide Dooku under the cam. So I'm gonna back this out just a little bit here. There we go. So we can get Dooku in there. Same
Awesome.
thing. Haven't even
Love
opened them
the
yet.
art. Love the art. Yep.
I'll pop this open.
Okay.
We are dumping out contents.
Okay.
I think
Well,
we got it.
standard blue base that you would see on the rest of the faction.
Get that model. Got that, and we'll start with the assembly instructions on Dooku. Let's zoom that in a little bit. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go.
Yeah, pretty easy to put together. What is that, like 4 pieces?
Yeah, head, and then you got arm, and then of course they do a single hand, of course, because why not?
Yeah.
This is going to be eerily reminiscent of a droid head, I think, when I have a look at this. But yeah, so I don't think the skill level on the assembly for this will be overly high, but I'll just dump out the contents first, and then I'll let you guys cut into the cards.
All right. So you got his beautiful cloak, his really regal pose. You know, he's pretty arrogant. He's pretty regal. He's the Count of Sereno. Left the Jedi Order. One of the best lightsaber duelists of all time. So he kind of shows that off in his pose.
Yeah, it's also exceptionally straight. So I know that, I mean, I've seen some wonky versions of getting these out of the boxes with some, like saber-like curls, but this one is quite straight. So that's pleasant. All right, let's slide that aside. I will pop the. Don't think there's any new tokens in here at all, so nothing spectacular to show there. But let's get the Dooku box out. Just give you a little bit extra elevation. There it is, and we will go to unit card first, and he's got a few keywords.
Yeah. Okay, so he's got cunning. So we've seen this keyword before on Krennic. Cunning essentially lets him win priority if he ties on the pip value. So Count Dooku plays a 1 pip, Emperor Palpatine plays Now You Will Die. They're locked in melee with each other. Dooku gets to go first. Awesome. The only thing that really beats cunning is Han's 0 pip. Or essentially, since Krennic and Dooku both have cunning, they just negate each other. All right, so he also has deflect. We've seen this before with like other force users, you spend the dodge, your defensive rolls upgrade to have a surge value. You then deal damage back to the attacker every time you roll a surge. He's immune to pierce, which, as you would expect from a force user, and that's really good. All right, so this keyword, the next keyword is, I think, a big one. And it's also new to Dooku. It's Makka Shi Mastery. While performing a melee attack, you may reduce the pierce value of your melee weapon by 1. If you do, the defender cannot use immune pierce. So I think that's basically the embodiment of Dooku just being an expert duelist with his saber. He's like, hey, Luke, Vader, Palpatine, you're immune to pierce? Not anymore. I'm going to take my lightsaber that's pierce 2, make it pierce 1, and you're not immune to pierce anymore. Awesome. And then his final keyword is Master of the Force 2. He just gets to ready 2 force powers at the end of his activation. We've seen this keyword before. He's got 3 force slots and a command slot. Okay, so he's also, his base cost is 205, so he's a little pricey. He's definitely more expensive than Grievous. So far, it's the most expensive unit for the CIS faction. It kind of complements that faction well in its Horde-style army play, where it's like super cheap core units, super cheap mass amounts of bodies, really powerful, expensive commander. He's got 6 health. Courage 3, which is 1 more than Grievous for not that many more points, so that's nice. That kind of helps your army not panic as much. He rolls a red defensive save, and he has surge to crit. He moves at speed 2, and let's talk about his 2 weapons here. So he's got his lightsaber, pretty standard 5 reds. Really solid pool, 5 reds surging to crit, but it also has impact 2 and pierce 2. So that's going to do some damage to a vehicle. If he's going to get locked into vehicle combat, he's surging to crit, and he also has impact 2, and he's going to automatically cancel 2 of their blocks. That's huge. And then he's got his lightning, and I think this is where Dooku really gets kind of unique, because he's essentially got a weapon that allows him to play the range 2 game, but he also moves at speed 2. He's not moving super slow like Vader or Palpatine. And so it's you don't always have to get him into melee to have him be effective. So his range 2 lightning attack is 5 blacks, pierce 1, and scatter. Scatter is a newer keyword that we're seeing. Essentially what scatter lets you do is the target that you're attacking, you keep their unit leader where it is, but you can pick up the rest of the models in their squad and redo their cohesion. So that essentially allows you to, if a unit's kind of hiding behind a wall, it lets you to slide them out into the open so the rest of your army can shoot at them. If a unit's in cover, it lets you re-cohesion them in front of the barricade, for example, so that they're no longer in cover. It lets you kind of manipulate their ability to spread Guardian or Medics or any other shared token abilities, for example, on clones. It lets you to kind of manipulate those ranges to make them less optimal for your opponent. So there's a lot of interesting play with scatter. It's a cool keyword. It's something different. It's not like a force push. It's just essentially a cohesion adjustment.
Could you couple a scatter attack with a force push after to then engage them in melee after you have done a ranged attack?
Potentially, but what you have to remember is most likely not, actually, to be honest. It's going to be very rare that's going to happen, and this is why. When you do force push, you still have to do the move from the unit leader. So what you can do is you could do a range 2 attack, redo their cohesion to put their closest miniature closer to you, which might suddenly give you access to range 1 force powers that you didn't have access to before, but you still have to execute that speed 1 move from the unit leader, so you might not be able to get that full distance.
Right.
However, you might be able to suddenly choke something that you couldn't choke before.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So, there's that. Or you can attack as your first action, push them closer, force push them, and then as your second action, move. And now that you're moving speed 2, you can engage them into melee. So that is a possibility. You're just not going to get any sort of real follow-up after that. But if you want to use that as some sort of like defensive shielding mechanism, that's an option.
Right.
So it depends if you ended your move or started your move in range 2, whether or not that's going to work.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to see some cards?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Any questions coming through? Anything people are asking? I can't really see the chat.
Well, I'm gonna pop up things in here. So Sploosh has just recommended Scatter, Force, Push, Choke. So I think I'm in agreement with that.
There we go. Yeah.
That sounds fair. Okay, let's go in the same order that we did with Rex. So we'll go to You Disappoint Me, 3 pip for
You Disappoint Me. All right, awesome. I love the art. He's just embarrassing Anakin right there. Classic. All right, so this is it's more like a traditional 3 pip in that it goes to Dooku in 2 units. Unlike Rex, who gets 4 tokens on his 3 pip, Dooku's getting 3. Himself and 2 units. Okay, when Count Dooku issues an order to a unit, that unit gains 1 dodge token. That's a nice effect right there. After Count Dooku performs a ranged attack against a trooper unit, he may perform a speed 2 move with that unit. That's cool because that's essentially like a speed 2 force push. You can combine that with force push and really like displace a unit pretty far. So I like that. For example, if you're running like a Grievous Dooku list, you might be able to, like, depending on how you set up, you might be able to push an entire unit into contact with Grievous before they even get to do anything or he even needs to move. That's an interesting play. I like that you're getting a dodge token off of this. I think this is totally like an objective card. This is like a, hey, I need to get you off this objective, or I need to push you away, or I need to really get you out of position for something. Maybe that speed 2 move is just putting you out of position of range 3 of your commander, and now you're going to panic because you have a lot of suppression. There's any number of interesting things you could do with this card. So it's definitely cool. I like it. When you got those 2 units, I would highly recommend one of them at least as a B1 so you can go down your coordinate chain. But, yeah, it's a cool command card. Dodges on Dooku, they're good for deflect, stuff like that. So.
All right, pop up unit card 2 or pip 2.
All right, pip 2, double the fall. Count Dooku in 1 unit. Again, just look at the arrogance in that art. He's
that's
so
definitely pose, yeah, for sure.
Oh, Christopher Lee, rest in peace. That guy's awesome. Okay. At the start of the activation phase, if Count Dooku has a face-up order token, he may return it to his order pool to choose up to 2 enemy units at range 1 to 2 and return their order tokens to their order pool. So this is cool because of a couple of things. It's essentially like a modified version of Comms Jammer in a way, in like a weird way. You're essentially forcing your opponent to put maybe like really important face-up order tokens that they've played on their command card back into their pool. And the reason why this is extra good is because, it's issuing orders to Count Dooku in 1 unit. Well, when you look at the list building potential right now, giving an order to 1 unit could mean giving an order to a B1, which is going to get 6 B1 core unit tokens out of the bag if you set that up correctly. So even though you're penalizing yourself by taking Dooku's order and like not issuing it to him, you're still going to probably have a very controlled bag. Just a thought. You know, it's you're not really you could probably reach in, pull from that bag, and very potentially get your Dooku token if you wanted him to go early. So it's cool. It's you know you gotta use this to counter strong command cards.
Yeah, in a way, you can almost use this 2-pip to counter a 1-pip.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
now there is an opportunity where, perhaps they go 1-pip and then straight up activate that unit first. So, I mean, there's no ability to counter that. But those turns, or, people play those cards where they just want to get that order out and they want to make that activation very situational, when I want to go, not when you want to go.
yeah.
This card here basically says, I'm going to make that not a play this round.
This card, yeah, this card embarrasses reckless diversion.
Yes.
That's a thing. But yeah, totally with the 1-pip thing, I completely agree. And remember, Dooku has cunning. So if you tie him with a 2-pip, you're not going first.
Yeah, and we know there's lots of situational units where that activation, wherever it falls in a turn, is the way to make that activation very effective and efficient. Not having it out to choose and kind of make that go when you want to basically renders that activation useless for a turn in a way. And not saying that you can't do anything with it, but there's definitely those first last plays and those times when you may want to spring a trap or something along those lines. So
one thing that's coming to my head is I'm just thinking like bounty hunter command cards.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, you play those bounty hunter command cards, you're issuing orders pretty much just to your bounty hunter, unless you're doing some sort of uplink trick or something. Now you're putting that bounty hunter back in a random bag. That's a really risky turn.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was getting at. That where I'm just thinking about the guys that I've played. Like a Bosk, for example. I need to kind of control when he goes. You can play your turns where you can manipulate, so he's doing what you need. This card, however, says I'm not going to have that option. So
and Son of Skywalker,
right? Yeah, and Doug's just pointed out that Boba would be super sad. So I didn't think this is definitely one of those cards where when you see this come out, you better quickly be cycling through your plan B and C in your head, because you don't know what you don't know what the Dooku player is going to be doing with that card.
Totally. Yeah, it's a cool card. All right, let's see the 1-pip.
Yeah, and we didn't actually show the upgrade cards in here, so maybe just quickly, we don't have to spend a long time talking about them, but for fear of being incomplete, these are the 4 that came in there. So because I think we might want to talk maybe a little bit about fear.
I definitely like fear, and I definitely like anger, and I think choke. Obviously, I mean, we brought this up with his shenanigans that he can do with choke and scatter. Choke's awesome. I'm probably gonna staple choke to him. Anger, you only got it in Palpatine so far as I'm aware, so that's another source of it, and it's definitely a good card. When he takes damage, he's going to get aims. He kind of wants to move a lot, so getting an aim for free if he's getting shot is always a good choice. But fear is cool. So fear gives you a new keyword, demoralize 1. After your rally step, an enemy unit at range 1 to 2 gains a suppression token. So, yeah, I mean, the cool thing about that card is that it's 3 points. The bad thing about that card is that it doesn't really do that much. It definitely could mean the difference between something panicking or not panicking. It's definitely a way to slow things down. For 3 points, it's good, but to me, I'm looking at Dooku builds and I'm thinking, okay, Force Reflexes is probably awesome on him because I want Deflect. Choke's probably awesome. Push is probably awesome. So, that's my thought on it. But yeah, tell me, what do you guys think of fear? Anyone loving that, or
So Doug's got a point here, but there's a question that came up before. So let's address Kevin's question here. He said, "Let's say if you win with the pip, does the opponent put down his face-up tokens as well, or does he wait till his turn?"
Interesting. It says at the start of the activation phase.
We're referring to 2-pip, right? Yeah. Let me go back there.
So yes. So again, you're putting down your orders first. Your opponent's then putting down their order second because you won priority. But the effect that triggers here happens during the activation phase, so you do get to see what your opponent like put down and then make that choice from there.
Yeah,
So
which kind of makes cunning even better there. So you're not even dicing off on a tie.
Yeah. So yeah, you're still gonna have all that information. It's not like, you know. All right. Any other questions coming through before we do the one pip?
Doug was just commenting about fear because you asked. Fear is a big for stopping Ovi's one pip standby or maybe
Yes.
the DTG.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Fear is like a hard counter to standby. So good point. Yeah, because it essentially happens like during your rally step, right? So after your rally step. So you haven't taken any actions yet, but you've then put a suppression on something that could potentially have a standby and cleared it. Great point. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
One pip.
We'll slide the last one in here. The one pip.
Best art on any command card to date.
Yeah, definitely an awesome art on here.
Yeah, they're going for it. They are not.
Yeah, they're not This is like not kid friendly maybe.
Yeah. Fear, surprise, intimidation. All right. Orders going just to Count Dooku. This card is cool. I like it. Count Dooku gains Arsenal 2 and Relentless. And each of his ranged weapons gains Versatile. So it says each of his ranged weapons. On his card, he only has one. Unless you're putting Saber Throw on him, that's technically a second ranged weapon, but just to caveat that. So each of his ranged weapons gains Versatile. After he performs an attack, each defender gains 2 suppression tokens. So let's go back to his unit card so we can talk through this. Maybe you want to put it up on screen simultaneously. All right, so first of all, Dooku plays this one pip. The only card in the game that's going to not win priority in this situation, or that's going to lose Dooku the priority, is Han's 0 pip. So unless you're playing like another Dooku player and they play this simultaneously, unless you're playing a Krennic player and they play a 1 pip simultaneously, or unless you're playing Han and he plays his 0 pip, you're almost assuredly going to be able to go first. So right off the bat, that's good. I look at this card, and as someone who's played like a whole bunch of Palpatine, I just look at this card and say, this card is just a hard counter to Palpatine. All right, so he gains Arsenal 2, so he has 2 weapons. He's got the range 2 weapon that's essentially 5 black. It's ranged 1 to 2. And he's got his other weapon, which is 5 reds, and it's a melee weapon. Okay, so this is interesting because, see, I didn't realize that his lightning cannot be used in melee, as far as I know. Does it have? It has like a range 1 restriction. It doesn't say like melee to 2. Does that matter here? Can I combine? Can I double move into melee, trigger Relentless, and use both of these attacks simultaneously? I'm actually not 100% sure. Does anyone know the answer to that? Sean, you have any thoughts on that? Like,
so you want to know if he can double move into melee,
trigger Relentless, and throw 10 dice.
Throw 10 dice.
Because to me, it looks like what are people saying here? Anyone got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Doug says the 1 pip plus Saber Throw equals 8 dice and Pierce 3. And it's and then he said you cannot. I'm thinking you can't because I mean there's nothing that says you can use that in melee.
Right.
So it's not a melee. It must not just be.
That changes my thoughts on whether or not this card's super good. So I was thinking when I initially looked at this card, and I guess I didn't take into consideration before right now, that his lightning can't be used in melee. I'm so used to Palpatine where his lightning can be used in melee. Because it says melee to 2, it doesn't say 1 to 2. So my thought when I initially read this card was like, oh, you double move into melee with Palpatine, you throw 5 reds, 5 blacks, it's Pierce 3, you reduce his Pierce by 1, it goes down to Pierce 2. That's insane. But I don't think you can do that. So this is one of those things where it's almost like you're like double moving into melee. You're hitting with just your lightsaber, and then you can do a ranged attack out of the melee at something else because
Yeah.
of your versatile.
It's kind
But
of
you,
like it's kind of like Grievous's card as well, right? That where
mm,
he gets to do that range one attack against at the end of his activation.
yeah,
In this case, it's kind of during his activation, and it's not against each unit at range one, but it's very similar in that fashion, I think.
yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty cool. It's still maybe not as anti-Palpatine as I thought because it's only Pierce 1, not Pierce 2, essentially against him. Because of his immune to Pierce, and then you're getting around it with that Makka Shi Mastery. But the ability to still shoot a unit with lightning and pierce it while engaged in a melee is cool. And then you can combine that with all the tricks that you would normally have, like scatter plus force push plus choke, all that stuff that we talked about. Relentless essentially allows you to like double move or aim single move. Um, you can form a pretty nice attack pool against a vehicle if you have saber throw here. You're going to throw 5 blacks, 3 reds, impact 2, surge to crit, and pierce 3. That's potentially a really strong attack into like an ATST or something, or could potentially even like one shot an ATRT. That's kind of cool. Yeah. What are your
Could
guys'
you
thoughts on this?
if you equipped him with saber throw,
Yep.
could you move?
Yep.
Um, get you could still use your I guess your Dooku lightning as one of your ranged attacks.
Hmm.
But could you move into melee, use Dooku's lightsaber in the melee, then use versatile to do your saber throw?
No, because it's Arsenal 2, so it's two different weapons. It's not the same weapon
Weapon
twice.
twice. Yeah, I
I
guess
think
in
that's
this
technically the same weapon twice.
twice. Yeah,
Some of
I
the
just
weapons
wasn't
may
quite
not.
sure on that. So
Yeah, I don't think so. But that's a good question. I mean, we can look that up. But again, I think because the weapon itself doesn't like have a unique name, I don't think it's considered like two different weapons.
yeah, I just was kind of I wasn't quite sure. So again, haven't really seen or played against him. A few people on TTS, but I don't really see him too often on there just yet. So I think once it's released here, now people are physically going to have it in hand. We'll kind of work our way through some of those. Nonetheless, I think just having Arsenal 2, the ability to, I mean, if you do equip Saber Throw, I mean, he can still do the two ranged attacks. He can do the Dooku Lightning plus the saber throw.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
that gives him two ranged attacks there, so he has a little bit more of that reach out and touch somebody type feel. I mean, 5 black, and then you're gonna round that lightsaber. It's rounded down on the
It's
throw
it's
or
actually rounded
rounded
up.
up. Okay,
So it's
so
three
then three
reds.
red. Yeah, 3 red with
Here's the
Pierce
other
two.
thing.
Yeah.
This last sentence is also interesting. Okay, so again, I'm pretty sure, and again, there's probably some debate here, so I'm curious to see like what everyone's thoughts are, but it says after he performs an attack, each defender gains 2 suppression tokens. It doesn't say that the attack gains suppressive. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna essentially, if you land any paint, you're gonna give 3 suppression here, right? Because your weapon is giving a suppression, and then it just says after he performs an attack, which performing an attack is going to generate a single suppression, each defender gains 2 suppression.
Oh, so you're thinking they gain 3 total?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, because again, if that wasn't the case, why wouldn't it just say each weapon gains suppressive? It specifically states like after they defend against an attack, they then gain 2 suppression. So my
That's a fair
thoughts on
point.
reading that is that you're gaining 3, which has some power in and of itself, if that's right. Definitely want to see the thoughts of the community on that because that is confusing, whether or not it's 2 or 3 suppression. But I think basically order of actions that should be 3 suppression.
I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. So I'm just going to post a couple comments. And we seem to have some discussion going on right now around Makka Shi Mastery. Let me just see if I can get both comments to post up here at the same time. It was working for me before, but it doesn't want to add that one. Okay, I'll go through these in order. So Doug is saying that Pierce 3 turns into Pierce 1 and Makka Shi Mastery. And then Kyle has an opinion that no, Pierce 3 turns into Pierce 2. And then it's if you attack the same target, combine all the weapons. Okay, that's not that. Those who have mastered the Makka Shi style have turned lightsaber dueling into a true art form, says Doug. While a unit with the Makka Shi Mastery keyword performs a melee attack, it can reduce the Pierce X value by the weapon with which it's performing the attack by 1.
Yeah, you just reduce your Pierce by 1. So if you have Pierce 3, you now have Pierce 2.
Right.
It literally says reduce the Pierce value of your melee weapon by 1. I guess it's melee weapon. So
in this case,
it's kind of weird. Yeah, maybe it is 1 because the ranged weapon's not a melee weapon.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It does say melee weapon. Fair enough. Yep,
yes.
It is Pierce 1. Good call.
So, and then Bob's agreeing with us on the 3 suppression. So we can't verify at this point if that's what the wording seems to imply. I think Joe makes a good point that if it was just 2, it would say suppressive. In this case, it says gains 2 suppression. We already know that you're going to gain 1 from the ranged attack. So we'll put an earmark in that one to revisit and see if we can get some clarification around that. So, but
we'll try to get that. We'll try to get that answered over the weekend. So when we talk about it on the cast on Monday, we'll have the actual ruling. This is kind of just speculative at this point as we're unboxing this.
It's a really good thing that we didn't bother going really in depth in this unboxing. We just kept it very surface level here, and by that I mean I'm completely joking. We did half our cast, for this coming week, so
we're just excited.
Yeah. All right, let's get this stuff out of the way because we have one last thing here. I mean, this is what we come to have a look at. The models. So let's just zoom in so we can see some Dooku action.
Yeah, he looks awesome.
I'm going to just talk briefly about the construction of this. So I actually glued one piece because I was a little bit fearful. So a little bit different than any of the other models that we've seen, at least that I can recall. And that's the fact that, I'm just going to take it back apart here for a second. So the body is very linear in shape, but you're going to notice that there's no attachment points for arms. And in fact, they both actually glue directly in or plug and glue directly into the cape. So
interesting.
I'm not sure that I really love this, actually. I will tell you this piece here was a little bit tough to manipulate. The tab is kind of into the side. So don't put this arm in first, put this arm in first. You can get a little bit of ability to press in. And then you can go ahead and stick this one in. This one's fine. This unplugs and you can kind of move around and paint, but I'm not really sure that I love the angles of attachment. I'm sure that gives it that dynamic look, but I wasn't really loving the fact that they weren't plugging into the body, just from a personal standpoint. So
the other thing is, man, just knowing how sloppily I paint sometimes, I think I'm going to want to paint that cloak separately before I glue the whole model together because I feel like it's going to be hard to get back there without smearing paint onto his body.
I think if you were to take the arm out, you have, good access. Will you get it on the backside of the body? I think definitely yes. I think this model lends really well to painting the cape, head, arm portion, and then body, and then just plugging it together. So I think that you're completely fine to do that. And so I'm not sure if that was a consideration or maybe just based on how the model needed to be sculpted, if they did that or not. I'm not 100% sure, but I think from the painting standpoint, I would definitely paint this apart. It does have a little bit of a gap right here in the chest So you may have to do a little bit of gap filling.
Hmm.
Perhaps I can just do a little bit of shaving and have that plugged down a little bit better. But just out of the box without any manipulation, this was what I ended up with. So
Cool.
I'll just grab Rex again here so we can kind of show the two.
Cool. Now, do you happen to have, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, do you happen to have a Grievous with you nearby?
I don't have a Grievous nearby. Sorry.
Okay.
I have a few
I
other things. I have a Tauntaun. Just
no,
kidding.
I heard that there was some controversy over like the heights of these models relative to Grievous.
Oh,
Because essentially what they were saying is like Grievous and Dooku are like the same size, and Grievous in actuality would have been like significantly taller.
oh, okay.
So that's kind of, that's one of those things too. Um,
Well,
yeah,
everyone's shorter on camera anyway, so it
yeah,
doesn't
fair
matter.
enough.
Let me just go back to the chat here because there seems to be some sort of good side discussion. I don't want to miss it, so I'm just going to bring over Kyle's comment right now. There we go. Sorry, Kyle. I'm not sure why your profile pic ended up so big, so just bear with me. And we'll have a look at your comment. It says, when you use the one pip, Versatile allows you to use a ranged weapon in melee. Therefore, with Arsenal 2, if you combine both weapons on the same target, then the dice pool has 10 black
Ah, dude.
and 10 red.
Well, it's five red, five
Five red.
black.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I see what
Okay,
he's saying.
so thank
Let's
you.
let's go back to
Super
the
awesome.
card
Yeah.
just to walk everybody through this
Yep.
in our interest of not going too in depth. But here we go.
Boom. Awesome. Okay, so back to my thought on that
And then
being, yeah.
I'm going to do this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lose our faces, and there we go.
So there you go. I actually, so then I think, does that essentially make your essentially or your ranged weapon considered a melee weapon, and then you would have Pierce 3, or if they're immune to Pierce, then have Pierce 2? I think that's the case based on the wording. If that,
Well, let's bring Kyle's comment back over.
hmm
Try to declutter the screen here. So what he's saying is, and he's just corrected to be 5 and 5. We know what you meant, Kyle.
Yeah,
There.
yeah, yeah.
So, well, I got a little excited when I saw 10. I was like, Where's my math not calculating here? So he's saying 5 black and 5 red with impact to Pierce 3 and scatter. So
Yeah.
effectively combining both of these right here,
Mhm.
versatile, allowing you to use the range weapon in melee.
Yep.
Then Makka Shi Mastery would reduce the Pierce value by 1, so that drops you to 2.
Yep.
And yeah,
Wow.
so
Okay, so there you go.
oops.
Play that one pip and charge into Palpatine and hit him with
Oof.
that before he can hit you with the now you will die. And at the very least, you're dropping his attacks by 2. If nothing else happens, you see 2 paint, you pierce him for 2, and you cut 2 health off of him. He's attacking 2 less times. At the worst, that's
I
awesome.
I'd be remiss if I didn't drop Matt's comment in here with 10 and 10. He's finally found a way to stop Tauntauns.
Fair
So
enough.
they are in fact not broken. Dooku is the direct counter to the Tauntaun horde.
Fair
So
enough.
that
Thanks, Matt.
seems fair. Yeah. Um,
All
Okay,
right.
hold on. We got to back this up because now Doug's brought in a good point. Yes, Doug, I'm holding here. So Doug went and grabbed something out of the RRG, so we got really excited here, and he's saying that a weapon with versatile keyword that is not also a melee weapon cannot be used to perform uh, melee attacks.
Well, there you go. So that
It,
goes back to the original thought. Okay.
um,
All right. So I honestly I want to table this discussion.
yeah,
We'll get all our ducks in a row over the weekend. We'll talk about it on the podcast. We'll give you the right answer. Because I don't have the RRG in front of me.
right.
And yeah, we're just going back and forth here. And
I'm just going to use
So
John's Fowler as a comment here of so I think that's fitting. So again, we're not going to open up the rules reference here. We'll look at all that. But this is an interesting point, and this is kind of why we want to kind of run with these conversations. Is that this is precisely what happens when new units come out. We're all able to read the words that are printed on the cards, but we start having interpretations based on kind of whatever we're looking at. The deeper we dive into overlapping rules, the more we discover that, okay, well, this may supersede this, or this may compound this, and I love this part of the game. So I'm perfectly fine with these discussions. We will of course find a clarifying response and have something. Doug says RIP our dream. Yeah. But we'll definitely clarify that. It seems too good to be true. Let's just verify, in fact, that it is not working. Either way, Dooku's a cool model. Rex is a cool model. That was the whole point of the unboxing tonight. So we'll definitely revisit this in the upcoming cast. So I'll just put us back on screen here, Joe, so we can kind of send these fine folks off. Our 30-minute unboxing turned into an hour and 15-minute discussion. So let's just call this the bonus podcast for the week. But amazing, the numbers were really strong. We had a ton of people hanging out. I don't think we dipped below 12 people at any one point, which is cool for us, just kind of throwing this up last minute. So we do appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us tonight.
well, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. And I guess we'll pop this up on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do. Like I said, we're going to try to put out content a couple times a week now if we can. So we look for our podcast on Monday nights, but also look for some bonus stuff as, new things come out. I know Sean's going to be doing some battle reports and stuff, so we got some cool stuff in the works. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for your patience as we kind of fumble through the rules, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Fair. Thank you. See you guys next time. Cheers.